Hello, and welcome to episode 102 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. Today on the podcast, I have a wonderful guest, Kelee Katillac. She is author of her new book, Historic Style, and we have a really great conversation. Let me tell you a little bit more about her. She's an interior and architectural designer as well as preservation consultant. Her work has been featured in the pages of USA Today, Architectural Digest, House Beautiful, Designer Builder, Traditional Home, Introspective, The Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, The Dallas Morning News, The Boston Globe, Los Angeles Times, and hundreds of others worldwide. The books House Beautiful Pink and Gestalten's The Chamber of Curiosity featured her signature style. She has been a guest on CNN, The Oprah Winfrey Show, Discovery Channel, Pure Oxygen, The Family Channel, and many others. In addition, Kelee is the author of 2 nationally acclaimed books and is the founder of DesignGivesBack.com, an initiative to provide rooms of hope, health, and happiness for those who are critically ill or in need. We have a wonderful and very interesting conversation I think you will like, so let's get into it. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hi, Kelee. Welcome to Design Curious Podcast. So great to have you.
Such an honor to be here. I love your mission, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you. And you have a great career path that you've already gone through and one ahead of you. And so I would love for you to share with our audience how you became an interior designer.
Well, it's quite a story, and it kind of reads like a piece of mythology, of design mythology, sort of an Achilles or an Oedipus story of coming to be in unlikely situations. But I really think that most people are looking for a career of passion and purpose. And in order to be an interior designer and be one that has a lengthy career and is able to stay the course, you must have passion and purpose about what you do. When I'm working with design students and talking with people about being a designer, it's more than just, picking out wall coverings and learning how to read a plan or do a floor layout or what carpet is the best. I mean, those are the technical aspects and those are a piece of what we do. But in order to stay the course in design, you really have to believe in what you're doing. And the more authentic you are in your own practice of design for yourself and the way it affects you, your world, your home, your family, the more sort of juice that we bring to our career. And usually that has to do with some critical point in our lives. Mm-hmm. And in my life, I've been able to sort of find 3 moments. I think if we look, you can find usually 3 different times where we're confronted with some portion of our history, whether it's a childhood memory or experience or something really tragic or a great challenge. And then how we were able to convert that experience into a purpose, a way of giving back because we feel strongly about it. And then coming up against it one more time and figuring out how we use that as part of our design career to make a difference in the world. I started out typical little Dutch German ginger girl wanting a pony in the lap of white privilege in the Midwest. And I, at 2 or 3, we moved to a small farmlet and I wanted this pony and we had a little barn and I took a little stick horse and put it in the stall of the barn with its head over the manger. And so every time people came to the house, I would take him out to see my pony. Of course, I was telling them about the pony and they were very excited because they thought this was going to be a pony, right?
Right.
And so out there. Isn't she, isn't that adorable? And my parents were just mortified. So we have to get this kid a pony somehow.
Yeah.
And so on my third birthday, they sent me from the living room to my bedroom. And when I came back out, surrounded by Ethan Allen, early American furniture, and a Lucy and Desi mid-century sofa, was a tiny little Shetland pony in the middle of our living room.
Wow.
Yeah. And I named her Tinkerbell, the perfect magical fairy pony, of course. And she became the center of my world. But at that moment, I realized that role playing and using space and environment to visualize this little pony actually helped me to manifest it, to manifest this pony. So life went forward for many years, and it looked like it was going to be a perfect white privilege, upper middle class world for me. Until one day when I was 7, of course, this was a true harbinger of things to come. I saw the neighbors, they just had brought in a new swing set with the slide on the end, the slide. So instead of going down the slide in a moment of like Alex Haunted and, free soloing El Capitan in my little lime green jellies, I took off up the slide, balancing with my arms up. So this wasn't going to end well, right?
Right.
And I slipped, and at that moment broke the front tooth completely. I looked down, and my newly sprouted front tooth, my parents were so proud of, was laying in pieces on the sliding board.
Ooh.
And of course, in those days, the advice was, well, this kid's a tomboy. That was the phrasing. The science kids, the art kids, the, being much more not playing house and being a typical little girl. I was definitely put into that category. My parents were advised to, put something durable on her face. And so suddenly I became the little girl with the grill. 20 years before Miley Cyrus and Snoop Dogg put the sizzle and the shemizzle on the grills, right?
Yeah.
So my whole life from then on became a challenge every day because I had the silver cap, the silver tooth everywhere I went.
Yeah.
And I think the universe said, look, this time around, you're going to be compassionate. You're going to learn humility, and you're going to learn what it's like to be judged on how you look. And so from 7 until 13, every day of my life was quite a challenge. I stopped smiling. I stopped talking. I became extremely internal. It's the subject of a lot of bullying. And I learned very quickly to understand what it was like for people who felt marginalized and felt different. But all during that time, we were still living the same lifestyle. Saturdays were shopping with my grandmother at the elite department stores in Kansas City, Missouri. She had her own salesperson who curated her clothing, and we would go in, and then we'd go to the Hawthorne room at the Jones store, which was a really Mad Men style mid-century lunchroom for ladies at lunch. And I would stare and be fascinated at the cherry blossom mosaics on the wall, and was taking in the environment. Sundays were great because I could escape my parents' extreme fundamentalist Christianity and go to my grandfather's country club, riding club, for equestrian riding brunches with champagne, all the while sporting the grill, the little girl with the grill. Yeah. So, which I could tell my parents and grandparents were a little mortified about, but it was what it was.
Yeah.
And we were family trips. And so one of the critical moments was when we went back to Mount Vernon and to George Washington's historic estate, in which I can remember the day in the cottage garden there, the kitchen garden, the smell of the boxwoods, the haze over the Potomac, going into the great house there, into the dining room, and seeing this bold green, verdigris green dining room that George Washington had created. And realizing as we took the tour that I wasn't the only one with a grill. George Washington, in fact, had a full set of wood dentures, a full set
True.
of wood
Yeah.
dentures. So yeah, so I was in good company. And there was the color. So during this time, I was in my bedroom a lot, working with color, starting to create an environment that felt safe to me because outside my room, I didn't feel safe in the world. And so I was learning that colors made me feel better and that they were a tool for wellness and a tool for creating a world outside of your experiences. And probably if that had happened today because of cyberbullying and the fact that we have screens everywhere and kids have screens, we've got this epidemic of suicide from kids from 6 on up because they can't escape from that kind of thing. I'm not sure I would be alive today if that had happened now.
Mm-hmm.
So by 13, my grandfather relented. I was 5'9", and his sister, who owned a high-end couture wedding salon, so she could be a model. She didn't have that thing on her face. So he relented, and they went and remedied it with a white veneer. So we went on forward, and I had decided by that time I was sewing and doing all kinds of creative activities. I didn't think myself an artist because I couldn't really draw. You'd put the proverbial apple and bottle in the drawing class. And so life moved forward until, I was really in college and wasn't going to study interior design. It just didn't make sense to me. I hadn't put it all together, even though it made me feel good.
Yeah.
I really hadn't thought about interior design. I grew up showing horses competitively, and I created and drew and painted. I taught myself to paint, and all the while was using color, designing clothing, but interior design really hadn't come on the radar. I was studying broadcasting and had gone into, was in the university to be a broadcaster. But at that moment, like many college students, I didn't have a lot of money. So instead of moving into the campus apartment, we moved into a trailer, into a mobile home. And my grandparents had sold their printing company. And so there was kind of this neat little mobile home park, late mid-century mobile home park. And I thought, oh, that kind of makes sense. It was less expensive. But at that moment, I had time to sort of get out from under this sort of dark, extremist, kind of Christian worldview that I had been raised with that really disqualified. And this is why I didn't think I could be an interior designer, was because there was a lot of suspicion around artists and music and literature and all the things that I was really drawn to, kind of an apocalyptic sort of view of the world that something bad had to happen before something good. So I was sort of disqualified and alienated from that creative self.
Right. Yeah, no one in your life encouraged you to be a creative. That's
not at all.
Like, yeah.
Not at all. In fact, there were great limitations. And I think a lot of us feel that way. We're not encouraged in that respect, or we have some idea about who a creative is. But I fell into a really bad depression during college while I was living in the mobile home, because there was such the separation between my creativity and my spiritual side. But when in truth, to be creative is to work in the vein, in the current of the creator. So creativity used in a positive fashion is ultimately very spiritual. Creator, creativity.
Yeah.
And so as I started to pick up curb furniture and bring it back and remake it, sew curtains, and turn basically that mobile home into the best little trailer house in Kansas. I can say, in retrospect, 35 years, 40 years later, I started to think of myself, I think I could be an interior designer. And from there, I started getting design jobs.
Oh, wow. So did you have any designers that you knew of, or was that even a degree that was offered at your university?
No, it wasn't. But, having been raised the way I was, there was Joanne Kelly, the Sears and Roebuck interior designer that helped my mom when I was growing up. And so she was, the platinum blonde version of Mary Tyler Moore pencil skirt, very glamorous.
Mm-hmm.
And but also that was sort of polarizing because I was not that at that moment. I was
Right.
identifying in a different way. It just did not come together for me at the
Mm-hmm.
moment, but I knew that creating my world was liberating, healing, remaking a chair in the image of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Felt good. I felt better at last, and things started to make sense for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I started getting interior design jobs. I went to work for a mom and pop wallpaper and drapery store in
Mm.
a suburb of Kansas City. And within 2 years of that, I was working on a project in what's called the Union Hill District, which was a development of reproduction historic row houses
Oh,
in Kansas City. And one of the kitchens I had done went straight to House Beautiful, and I had my first feature with,
wow.
within 2 years of graduating and moving into the Country Club Plaza district in Kansas City. So from there, I made a few jumps to different firms and ended up in New York City within just a couple of years at Fifth Avenue and 15th Street. It was an Ethan Allen store with a kind of a high-end design firm on the side of it.
Okay.
And so I continued to cultivate my skills. And while in New York, I was able to jump deep in the counterculture, poetry readings, music. The Ramones lived around the corner, CBGBs. I was able to completely embrace all the things I had never been able to.
Yeah.
Cooper Union, I went to the master's program in art history and started to put together that our built environment, our homes, and our historic places were a reflection, a material outpicturing of everything that we believe in and of ourselves. So if we are spiritual beings in a physical form, and manifestation is simply that moment where our ideas become form and come out into our world. So started to understand that interior designers help clients to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
Manifest. We hear a lot about that word right now,
Mm-hmm.
manifest. And that's simply where our ideas become tangible in our world through our
Yeah.
experience or through our environment. And through advanced study, William Morris and the arts and crafts movement in the 1800s in England, you could start to see that the further people prior to that time were kind of working in cottage industries and using their hands, and there wasn't as much dissension and cultural dissension in England at that time. But as people went into factories and were doing what they felt less meaningful creative work, there started to be upheaval, cultural
Mm-hmm.
upheaval, and understanding that for all of us to be satisfied in our world, to feel happy in it, one, that we have to express our creativity and that we are extensions of our clients when we work with our clients to help them express their creativity and to manifest their dreams in their homes. And all these things are our medium to do so. If the home is a three-dimensional art form or piece, then all of these things are the forms, are the materials we use to create that, help our clients to create this living, interactive world. And so it elevates. And the more that we can make it conceptual, the more we can create. And this goes back to the historic piece, my new book, Historic Style, Honoring the Past with Design for Today, goes to the length of how my career has evolved from a personal place of pain to power to purpose. And by finding those moments, so what's started as the little girl with the grill found a flashpoint of inspiration with George Washington and the color in the middle of the great turmoil of the American Revolution and the strength when he was in a lot of pain himself physically.
Yeah.
and lumbering under the emotional knowledge that we were in the last vestiges of 10,000 years of enslavement,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that it was a wrong idea, but it was going to take a few more years, but yet he had to sort of stay the course to make it to freedom for
Mm-hmm.
all of us.
Right.
Knowing all the things he was lumbering under, but to look at his home to see the expression of color, and that those historic places are a reflection of all of the people that co-created them, including the enslaved that built our historic monuments,
Mm-hmm.
onto a variety of people in our culture, those that don't often get associated with the materials and the building and the creative design work of historic places. Our farmers, our family farmers who grow the food that feed the workers, all the while creating beautiful, charming farmhouses with their own hands and with their families, which we're appreciating so much today, to our coal miners who forged underground in the dark to create the energy, to make the metamaterials that we've built our modern world with, to my great grandmother who came and worked in a low pay sweatshop in the early 20th century, sewing and making the fabrics of our time. All of these various people are co-creators, are hidden co-creators in the design and the built environment of America. And that's what historic style, well, being this unbelievable 360-page coffee table book, and I have to say, it just won the National Book Award for Coffee Table Book
Wonderful.
2024. Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah.
And congratulate the entire team. It's I get to be the quarterback, but we have a huge team of people who've co-created this book with me. So that's the celebration.
Yeah.
It is in itself a symbol of how we're in this together, and we have to acknowledge each other and support each other in the further making of this American dream. And so historic style, while we're looking at history to be inspired on what to take from it and incorporate through interior design, preservation, and architecture into our own homes, and to leave behind the tropes of the past that no longer serve us. It's kind of like we think about Bridgerton. Love Bridgerton. So current, it's so old but so new.
Yeah.
So old but so new. And we're looking at how, despite our cultural background and limitations of history in the past, how we could all play any role and be anything today. And so those outpicturings is really the kind of book that historic style is. It takes the best of the old and combines it with our own personal style while honoring historic places and learning what is appropriate to do in restoration on a National Register historic place. You know, the book has over 250 unbelievable color photographs from the world's leading photographers. It has over 40 of my projects from the last 30 years of my work.
Wow.
And it includes all the historic places that are of note. In a full circle moment, George Washington gets honored. We're looking at Mount Vernon. We have the creative contributions of the curators of Mount Vernon, that verdigris dining room that was so inspirational to me is included in this book. So we can see the difference between a museum house, a period place that has to be done and is keyed to a certain moment in time. In the case of Mount Vernon, it's the last year of George Washington's life. It's called the Era of Significance. So as a designer who has really created my career now around history and historic places and design history, but also incorporates, you know, my client's personal style to add on to the narrative of a historic home, if that's what we're working in, or we're doing a new build project and we're being inspired by history. It's how to incorporate what's meaningful to them, the founder's history of a historic house, and how to find the through line of narrative. And in historic style, you'll see that we have montage or designed word pages. The book is very interactive and immersive. We have my design diaries where you get inside the tortured head of show the depth of struggle and reflection, all the influences that are coming together in my playlist. I live with a set of headphones on because I've been always so influenced by literature and poetry, science, culture, just rabid on pop culture and fashion and couture. So you see all of these things come together to make very conceptual rooms. And I think that's the next level of design is conceptual rooms that help our clients to live more fully, that manifest their beliefs, values, goals, and dreams, and show their families and their kids that, hey, life is ours to design, and the world is what we create it to be.
Yeah, I really love how you illustrated that a designer's role is to partner with the client and really who might have been inhibited about creativity from something in their past, like they have not explored creativity to their fullest. So they don't know how to design their house in an expression that matches their past and their desires. And so the designer comes in and partners with them to really manifest what they need to see in their life and then make that become a reality with the design. And so I love that role. I think that is a pivotal piece for people who are looking to become interior designers and saying like, oh, I have a passion for design, and understanding that there's another level to this passion. Like for yourself personally, yes, but also you're going to bring it to your client and help them improve their lives. Yeah.
Well, you're so right about it. And, there is a whole nother aspect to it in that when you're helping them manifest it, you can't possibly be helping them heal because they're out picturing things that they haven't gotten to address in their lives as well. I spoke about how there's 3 points in our lives where we have something that changes us from a privileged little white kid that could have just skated through the world, getting that moment where I had to open up my mind and heart to people, other people, and to learn to be compassionate, empathetic, to then the next moment, because I kind of forgot about that and really wanted to forget about it.
Sure, yeah.
That moment during college in the mobile home, in which I had another point where I really subconsciously rebirthed the little girl who used space to outpicture dreams and color to get well. And then roll it forward another 15 years to the moment where I founded a project for Habitat for Humanity and called the House of Belief program. And I became a national director, in which I went into the Habitat community in Kansas City, Missouri, and was given an old drug house to bring the community together to design and create it as a reflection of each individual Habitat homeowner, but also as a concept house for the community vision. And I brought other artists and designers in and wrote a 12-module workshop series. And I knew that the Habitat homeowners themselves were going to be mentors and teachers. And so we all worked together. So we had, in Kansas City, we call it, that line, demising line called Troost. And so you had Black community on one and white on the other. And we were on the Black side of Troost. And when I went into Habitat, I was pretty much the only white person. And they were really gracious with me and didn't judge me and pulled me in and taught me. And we were able to learn and to share. And I was able to find out what it was like to live a different walk and shared. But what we ultimately found, and Gloria Hamilton, whom I have dedicated historic style to, is this matriarch of this family, of this Black family who had for years, she lived through the Rosa Parks era. And she became one of the key leaders in the House of Belief program and one of my best friends. And I went on to mentor her great-granddaughter, Jasmine, who in another book I did called Kids' Sacred Places, Rooms for Believing and Belonging. After I was on Oprah for House of Belief, the first book, then they said, can you adopt these ideas for kids and families who are having a lot of challenges right now, from bullying to broken homes to self-identity, and did 13 more case studies. And so from the Habitat program, which became a national pilot program, I was able to walk hand in hand and arm with 5 women who had been in this program, had to really come into their own across America and do these platform talks and create this groundbreaking process for healing as a community and for understanding each other. We understood that, even though we may have 2 different racial experiences and 2 different world experiences, when it came to home, we all want the same things.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to find this path for healing and understanding. And then moving it on forward through the kids' book, Rooms for Believing and Belonging, to found with my husband, Steve Heifetz, an architectural designer, Design Gives Back. And that was where I really drilled into helping those who are critically ill or in need by creating rooms for healing, hope, healing, and happiness. And so for the last 15 years, have worked in the most traumatic situations to help those who have cancer, children with neurofibromatosis or sickle cell anemia, to create a healing room and see how using color specifically and images to support their positive mindset could promote a change in their body. And we've had we call them miracle makeovers because we have seen miracles through this process.
Wow.
And this all started through my own childhood experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the thing I would say for anyone who wants to become an interior designer, that yes, we're compelled because we love beauty and environment and color, and we watch a lot of HTV and GTV in the middle of the night. It looks glamorous and fun. But there's something else. And that's the challenge, to look for your 3 critical moments. Or maybe you can find one right now. You're college age and you've got one you can look back at. The thing that you get, your juice comes up, your heart opens, you feel passionate about. And even though it may be something very traumatic, think about how you might adapt an interior design career to include some of that, because giving back is part of what brings beauty and completion to that whole process. And my clients love it because they know, my well-heeled clients, because they know that a portion of every dollar that they spend in their own project is going to go to help fund a room for someone who's critically ill or in need.
Yeah.
And so it's this really full circle thing. And it's really the same process no matter what you're going to do with your career. But as an interior designer, it's on the highest level, we can become healers and manifestors in the lives of our clients. And so that's really, finding that passion and how to roll it into your career is where we think about BBB being the Better Business Bureau, has a different meaning for me. Through interior design, you can have a beautiful career. You can have a beautiful life for yourself because you've created beauty for your clients in the lives of your clients and those that may really need your help. We are in this together. We need each other, and interior design is a pathway to create all of that.
Wow, Kelee, that's so powerful. I just love your whole message, your story. And if someone listening was interested in discovering on another level how much color can play a part in healing and how much history can come into effect, where would they go to learn about all of this?
Well, I teach it. And in fact, Harper's Bazaar just asked me to write an op-ed on how to incorporate color into healing and interior design. And I'm really excited because it's going to also be in Harper's Bazaar in Dubai when there's so much about female empowerment right now. And so I shared in that op-ed that I just wrote a little meditation that anybody can learn to do, which puts us more in contact with how color can help us and how to find colors that are super, super meaningful and personal. It may seem a little woo-woo, and it really is very scientific. White light are all the colors put together.
Mm-hmm.
And doctors right now have honed in on the fact and are actually able to gauge and measure the amount of white light in our cells. They're called biophotons. It's how much light they can find in our cells. And they have found out that people who have a lot of light in their bodies are healthier. When we get sick, we have less light. So white light are all colors together. So white light is simply different lengths of color, which we read and perceive as various colors. Those various lengths of colors are kind of like spiritual medicine. So it's possible, like when we think of intuitive eating, you crave what you need, what your body needs. Well, your spirit can tell you what color you need right now to make a shift in your energy field, whether it's in your body, your mind, you've had, some upset, some upheaval, you're angry, you've got some issue that you can't get out of your mind, or you've got a physical issue. And so by using this little meditation, it's very peculiar how we can shift. Would you like to try it right now?
Sure.
All right. So all you have to do is imagine a bright light ray and pull it down through the top of your head all the way into your solar plexus, into your stomach, right around where we feel everything and we tend to hold upset. So just fill your whole body with white light. Just see it just going into your trillions of cells. In fact, ask your trillions of cells to imprint the perfect health and knowledge and wellness of the white light. Now that you've done that, ask your high self, which is basically your spirit, where you and the divine can kind of come together. Ask your high self what color it needs right now for you to feel better. And now key thing is you don't pick a color out. You don't think about it. You'll just wait a moment. And you'll either see, hear a color, an object, a gemstone. Take the first color that comes to you. Once you have that color, see it as from a stained glass. You know how the light comes through the stained glass. And laser it down across your heart and your shoulders. And just feel yourself. Breathe it in, that color, and feel it come up to the back to the top of your head. And that's all there is to it. The further you practice, you can ask for a color to deal with a specific issue. Got a pain in your shoulder, your back hurts, you're upset with your mom, you feel like a client, something wrong, your conversation. You can be very specific and you will receive a color very specifically. Remember, the key is it's not your favorite color.
Yeah.
It's not a color that you want to make up. You have to allow it to pop in, and then you can provide it for yourself. And you can do this for your clients and with your clients. And I've practiced this. When I enter into a client relationship, I do this to be receptive to what my clients might need for color. Mm-hmm. Some clients just, want to head to the country club and have a cocktail and let me do the installation, right? Mm-hmm. And we do, and I have those relationships too. Some people are interested in a deep journey. Other people just really are having a deep journey in other ways in their life. They have a different path to find fulfillment. But there are clients that want this too, and they want to get down to it and find out how to deploy colors for themselves as a daily practice, but then bring it into their world. And if you find you're a person or you have a client who's very afraid of color, which many people are, we want a neutral backdrop. Irony is that they're probably one of the really spiritually sensitive beings that needs it the most. that fear comes because we have a strong reaction to color.
Okay.
And so in that case, we go to pure white. We start with light and neutral and prescribe color in small, easy doses that can be added in and extracted from the room or from the home. And that seems to be a really good pathway to opening up and using color in a holistic way that clients can appreciate and benefit from.
Wow, wonderful. Well, Kelee, we're going to have all of the contact information and all of the links of the book and the projects that you're working on for our audience to have in the show notes. And is there anything that you'd like to share before we leave today? I mean, we've been so gracious with all of your knowledge. I think that is just amazing. And I definitely want to go out and get your book, Historic Style, to see all of those great projects that you have in there.
I think that Historic Style really shows the kind of career an interior designer can have.
Okay.
And how one's personal experience can start with something humble, modest, and almost absurd and funny, little girl with a grill, and end up at Mount Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
How you can have this expansive career, and how if Kelee can do this, how anyone can. I think it has the process in it, and you'll find it very encouraging. And if it's just a piece for your coffee table, that every time you see it, you're reminded, if Kelee can do this, so can I. It helps you to further believe in that dream of becoming an interior designer.
Great. Wonderful, Kelee. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a joy talking with you. I
loved it. Thank you for your mission. I appreciate it so much.
It was so great hearing Kelee's story and what brought her to be an interior designer. And by the way, Kelee did do a reading of the colors that we had while we were doing that little color meditation. And because she views them as personal, she didn't share it at the time, but I can share with you her interpretation, which she sent to me afterward. We were talking about that I had a light lavender tinged with pink, and apparently pale amethyst color equals like the stone is for balance and peace and overall sense of well-being. And the pink is about love and even a need for more self-care. So I really liked that and thought it was really interesting to have that color meditation, so you can look a little more into that. And don't forget about all the links in the show notes that I have for you, as well as ways to get in contact with Kelee there. And I have information about my design mentor. So that's all I have for you this week, and I'll see you again next week. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you loved this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.